Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. I will ride with this group. Seriously, man. Please. And away we go.
Reckless speculation.
Today is the day where reckless speculation turns to reality.
Reckless speculation.
Happy legal tampering window. Happy, as the NFL calls it officially, negotiation window. Happy free agency frenzy, bonanza, chaos week.
Reckless speculation.
We are here live on the Purple Daily YouTube channel. Phil Mackey, the sports dad, Judd Zolgad, executive producer spinning 400 plates today, Declan Goff. And we will navigate you through the early stages here of the NFL negotiating window, where at any moment the Vikings could agree to terms with a guard, with a defensive tackle. We've got some news on that front even to start the show. But Judd, let's take a deep breath, go to Quick Trip, and then we'll settle in for hardcore football free agency discussion.
I love it. And guess what? You know what? Today is a day where you need to be in front of your computer, in front of the TV all day, just waiting for each move. But you need to also stock up. You need some food, right? Well, guess what? The food is here when it comes to Quick Trip. Quick Trip has everything that you could possibly want. In fact, you are checking this out. If you're watching us right now, Quick Trip, I mean, look at all of the options. So breakfast, lunch, dinner, all of those things, they need to be taken care of. You're not going out tonight. You're going to be watching the NFL coverage, and you should do so thanks to your friends from Quick Trip. And now you're saying, but Judd, I got to go inside. I got to spend all the time inside Quick Trip. No, you don't. Put the app on your phone, pick up your food, hurry home, and make sure you do not miss a move. Hopefully, you're watching us and going to Quick Trip to make sure that you are fueled up for the free agency frenzy.
Well, you're definitely not on Twitter/X right now, because this is a great time for that platform to be down the last couple hours. So allow us to be your guides here. If you're trying to figure out how to get on Twitter, whatever, we will have you covered. We've got different feeds and sources pulled up from different platforms. We've got some investigative reporting tentacles out in the football landscape right now. We'll start with these two things. So yesterday, if you missed it, Aaron Jones signed a 2-year, $20 million contract to come back to the Vikings, $13 million guaranteed. Also, Ryan Wright, $1.75 million, bringing back the 25-year-old punter. Or I don't know, maybe just bringing him back to compete with another punter that they bring into training camp. And then last week, Theo Jackson, middle of the week. So we know that Theo Jackson, restricted free agent, is back on a price, $6 million a year, 2 years. That probably wipes out Cam Bynum from the equation. Aaron Jones is back, so you at least go into the draft. You could and still should draft a running back. But the biggest news that just came down here as it pertains to the Vikings in the last 10 minutes, according to our guy Doogie, he was texting it. He's like, I can't tweet it because Twitter's down, so throw this out on Purple Daily. He can confirm that defensive tackle, interior defensive pass rusher, 30-year-old Jonathan Allen is visiting the Vikings today. So they are already down the path of trying to figure out how to beef up their trenches, both on the defense and the offense, and then we'll keep you posted on other things that come in here. So let's start there. Aaron Jones back on a 2-year contract, and Jonathan Allen visiting the Vikings today, a guy that tore his pectoral muscle last year, missed a big chunk of the season, but came back, had 7 pressures against the Lions in that divisional round playoff game. A couple years ago, 49 pressures in 2023, his last full season. At one point in 2021-22, he's a little bit past his prime, but he's still very good. He was a guy that would rack up double-digit sacks and 70 pressures in a season, so something the Vikings desperately need from the interior, Judd.
Let's start with Jones, because I think we all had a little bit of a sticker shock when we saw the initial terms of that contract. It seemed a little bit steep, right? But we've talked about this a lot before. The devil is in the details. You have to see a contract like flat out. What a player gets in this league means nothing. It's guarantees, and it's also how the contract is structured, right? So at the end of the day, it looks like what Aaron Jones got was really a 1-year contract, $9 million, with an option for 2026 that the Vikings can bail out of. this contract, like when you say 2 years and $20 million for a guy who's going to be in his 30s, you're like, hold on a second, that is way too much. The reality is, considering what the market was going to be, can you argue it? Sure. Yes. You could say you should have allowed him to walk. You should have drafted a back, signed a cheaper one, and gone about your day and saved some cap space. But all of that being said, I think with what the Vikings have to work with, this was not nearly the investment that we thought, because the sticker shock in this league is huge. A lot of times smart capologists like Rob Brzezinski from the Vikings structure the contract so it's like, okay, you're gonna be well paid for a year, but every year, in my opinion, with a guy like Jones, you basically want the opportunity to get out of the contract after that year. The Vikings have that here, so I don't think it tied up nearly as much cash as we initially thought.
Yeah, he's really good too. We sit here and maybe split hairs about, did they pay him a little too much? Are they blocking the way for a running back to be drafted in one of the best running back draft classes? I would think a couple things on this front. Number one, Aaron Jones, they've already talked to him about, hey, you're 30 years old. This is going to be a timeshare. We are likely to draft a running back, maybe even in the first round, but probably on day 2, a trade back or that third round pick. So I don't think he signs this contract if he's not good with that arrangement. I don't think he's going to be a malcontent if his carries go down. Seems like a great guy to have in the room. Is he Saquon Barkley in terms of productivity? No, of course not. But he's still one of the top 12-ish running backs in the league. He's one of only 4 running backs last year that had 1,000+ rushing yards and 400+ receiving yards. You can use him in both facets of the offensive game. He can play on third down. You can still draft the Iowa running back or one of the 2 Ohio State kids. I would say that you do need a yards after contact guy, or a guy that in close quarters in the red zone is more likely to just sort of break his way into the end zone than Aaron Jones is. So I don't know. Was it a little bit of a, whoa, that's more money than I thought? And that was like PFF projected 2 years, $14 million. Yeah, a little bit more. But the $4.8 million cap hit this year is very manageable. It really does not hinder what you're trying to do here in your trenches. So all aboard. By the way, we have the first signing. The first, or not signing. Signings. The first player who has agreed to terms on a contract in the NFL.
Yep. It's not official at all. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not official. 48 hours. Give it 48 hours.
It is not official because you can't sign until Wednesday. But Hassan Reddick has agreed to terms on a 1-year deal for $14 million, $12 million guaranteed with the Buccaneers. So the guy that made life miserable in hell for the Jets, the Eagles sent him off to the Jets, and he held out for a part of the season. So that's your first. Oh, and then here's another one.
There's a few, yeah.
Oh, we got some moves coming in here.
Talk to me.
Okay. Hold on a second. Let's refresh this. Get all the detail. Chris Godwin back to the Buccaneers, 3 years, $66 million.
Okay.
So a nice contract for
that's a
good receiver. And then offensive tackle Jalen Moore is closing in on a contract with the Chiefs, who are looking to beef up their offensive line. So the moves have begun here at the start of the legal tampering period. Jonathan Allen visiting the Vikings, 30 years old. What are your thoughts?
I like it. Now, I guess my question is this. Is this the guy? Like, is this the guy? Because I certainly would have kicked the tires on things. But the reality is this. If the Vikings have looked around the market and it is super rich, and you're expecting, and I would expect that defensive tackles in particular and guards are going to be essentially gone by the end of today, right? So if you've kicked the tires on guys and you said, okay, we're going to go out and break the bank on a guard, but we can't also break the bank on a defensive tackle, but we can bring in a guy who's very good. And more importantly, this is a deep defensive tackle draft. So get a guy with him from the draft who's going to come in on a 5-year contract. I don't mind this. Because as fun as the blueprint that we did with Thor on Thursday last week was, I don't know if in reality you're going to get a big time defensive tackle and a big time guard And I think just from the standpoint of what can you get the most quality from both free agency and the draft, it's probably defensive tackle. But when it comes to guard, I think you got to come away with one of the main ones here. So if that's the strategy, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, there are some names out there. Let's start with the defensive side. So Jonathan Allen, you're not going to get all of your sweet spots here in free agency, which is like a 26 or a 27-year-old on a reasonable contract, right, who had no injury issues. There's when you start filtering the options in free agency, you're going to have to potentially sign a guy on the wrong side of 30 to help fill some of these gaps, and or a guy coming off an injury like a Will Fries, for instance, who's a possibility at right guard on the offensive side of the ball. But on defense, if you're looking for interior pass rushers, there is a wide array of options. You got at the top of the menu, you got your Milton Williams for $21 million. You got your Wagyu steak or whatever. And there's been some reports linking him to the Vikings. But then you've got 27-year-old Levi Onwuzurike, who's projected to make around $8, $9, $10 million, about half of Milton Williams. But there's a bin of veterans, starting with Jonathan Allen, who we can confirm is going to visit the Vikings today, that can help shore up that problem on your interior. Just for some context here, the Vikings last year, pressures on defense. Grenard had 84 pressures. Van Ginkel had 50. Then there's a huge drop-off to Blake Cashman at 31. Jihad Ward, who's kind of a hybrid interior/edge guy that they're using on third down packages, stunts and twists and things, had 31. Then Patrick Jones had only 24 pressures all year. Ivan Pace Jr., 20. I have not listed one of the down linemen yet. This is the problem with the Vikings. They have to dial up schematic pressures. They can't just plug a Jonathan Allen in there.
Right.
So you got to go down. Jerry Tillery is the first true interior down lineman on this list of pressure generators. And he's 8th behind Josh Metellus, Ivan Pace, only 17 pressures all year. Harrison Phillips, only 16 pressures all year. And Jonathan Bullard, only 6 pressures in 280 pass rushing snaps. So even if Jonathan Allen's not the same player he was a couple years ago, if you could get that dude in here for half the cost of a Milton Williams for a couple of years, and he gives you double or maybe triple the amount of pressures as a Jerry Tillery or a Harrison Phillips, sign me up. Sign me up, even if he's on the wrong side of 30.
Yep. And if you can then draft one too, that's the thing is, this team desperately needs help there. But if you can draft one and then bring in a veteran with the draft pick to give the kids some time, I think that gives you the best of both worlds if you're not going to make a big splash. And again, my guess right now is because the free agent market's not great. It's okay, but it's not great. And my guess is there are huge bucks being thrown out right now. Huge money being thrown out.
Jalen Moore is getting $15 million a year with the Chiefs, which is a pretty high. And actually, probably if Cam Robinson leaves in free agency, that might actually get him some leeway or some type of ground of what type of contract to expect from him. And then does that also help the Vikings comp pick formula too?
How do you guys feel like the guard market? Will Fries, Tevin Jenkins, Mekhi Becton, we've documented his issues with the Vikings' new assistant offensive line coach. Patrick McCarry, the guys in their 20s, their mid-20s, the premier free agents. Are you guys okay with sticker shock today or tomorrow? Will Fries,
yes,
making between $15 and $20 million a year?
Yes. I think you have to do it. I think you absolutely have to. That area is right now a sort of a lost cause, right? And you have, you can make a very good case that you have 3 needs, but let's cut it down to 2 needs. I think one of those has to be a guard who is sticker shock. And look, you've got the room now. We have waited for this, and there's a difference between throwing around a contract that is going to hamstring you cap-wise and being scared. This team if the playoffs, if the Detroit game, I mean, those last two games, we've talked a lot about how Darnold didn't play well, and that's all very true, okay? But those last two games, if that's all you came away with from, you weren't watching them. You were not watching them. You have to go, if you are going to have any chance of, and I'm not saying winning more games, I'm saying making the playoffs in 2025 and winning playoff games, your offensive line has to improve. I would argue that that is actually as or more important than the running back position, based on the running back is going to do nothing if you do not get that interior line shaped up for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, so there's several different options on both sides. It's a good market. There's a lot of people correctly saying that it's not a loaded free agent market by any means. There's not, and some of the guys that you thought were going to be part of it, like the Trey Smiths, who was the premier right guard option, those guys either get franchised or, like Ronnie Stanley, left tackle Ravens, they either get franchised or they reach an agreement to go back to their teams. So you're probably going to have to overpay for players that aren't going to be worth their price tag. But that's why you clear money in free agency. And you can still, you could, by the way, you could go on the defensive tackle side, for instance. You could give like a 2-year, $24 million deal to a Jonathan Allen or a Javon Hargrave, who's 32 years old, somewhere in that range. And that helps you this year, maybe next year. But you could also you could trade back in the first round, pick up one. It's a great interior defensive line draft too. So you could, what I'd love to see the Vikings do is spend money in the trenches in free agency, but don't let it end there. If you go get Jonathan Allen today or tomorrow and you reach an agreement, don't let that stop you from drafting like Walter Nolan from Ole Miss in the first round. Something else to touch on here from over the weekend. I'm curious to hear your updated thoughts, because there's been no Sam Darnold news yet that's come across, other than like the Steelers or like official news. He hasn't like agreed to a contract yet. Other than here come the Steelers down the backstretch. The Seahawks, after they traded Geno, were a reported landing spot, but then they also got rid of DK Metcalf, so you're kind of wondering, what are they doing? Your thoughts on the Sam Darnold reporting, starting with like last week, the Vikings are working on a deal to bring him back, to then like 48 hours later, all the national people like, no, actually, no, the Vikings have pivoted to Daniel Jones now.
Oh my God. I feel like we need to send the insiders back to insider school. This has gotten so off the tracks as far as buying what you're told and regurgitating it that it is incredible. Like nothing. It's not like this show has Kwesi or Rob Brzezinski on the line. We're not intercepting their texts, but we've watched how Kevin O'Connell works. Okay. For 2 years now, 2 consecutive years. And we have seen, number one, they do not denigrate their former players. They do not. That's smart. Number two, when it comes to quarterbacks, they really don't do that, because Kevin O'Connell has a side project that we have dubbed Quarterback Rehabilitation School. What on earth, and I'll be brief here with this because we've beaten this into the ground, but what incentive does Sam Darnold have to come back here on a cheap contract and really probably bench himself? Like, the logic here has escaped me from the get-go. And the other thing too, and I wrote this on the Substack yesterday, is, ladies and gentlemen, whether you like it or not, it's JJ time. He's a top 10 draft pick. He's a top 10 draft pick going into year 2. He was not physically unable to go to the facility last year. Like, we're acting like he was in a hospital bed for a season. He was at the facility. He was meeting with O'Connell once per week. He was involved in everything. Yeah, he couldn't practice. That's a bit of a bummer. But the reality is, you often don't want your rookie quarterback to play as a rookie, and you got that. And we've all just sort of forgotten about him. Now I saw when the pivot on Sam, Phil, took place, I immediately saw, well, what are they going to do? They got to get a quarterback to back up. They got to get another option.
Aaron Rodgers.
It's like you don't have a quarter. You have a top 10 pick. I know it's hurt before. I know Teddy's knee snapped, and I know Ponder was a bust. But I'm sorry, the The reporting's been atrocious. And the thought process, the common sense has been absolutely terrible. And I know you're all scarred out there, but this is why they did that April night when we were at the Fillmore and it was awesome and fans were going crazy. They didn't do it to have a backup quarterback. So yes, it's been atrocious. This has made even less sense than the Kirk stuff did, and we thought Kirk was probably gone. So I'm just glad, if nothing else, I'm glad that Sam should get his payday. He deserves it.
Yeah, it's so. Oh man, because
I got some breaking news.
Yeah, Dahlman's
is it the
going to
Drew
Bears.
Dahlman thing?
Yeah, Dahlman's going to
We do that right now. Okay, so we'll throw that out. The Bears, in their quest to remake their offensive line, they just agreed to terms with the top center on the market. Previously, with the Falcons, center Drew Dahlman agrees to a 3-year, $42 million deal, $28 million guaranteed. So, yeah, Drew Dahlman, one of the best run-blocking interior offensive linemen on the market. We had done a couple blueprint iterations where at least one of them, we did bring in Drew Dahlman. We said goodbye to Bradbury. I think, the Vikings were never directly connected to Dahlman, so who knows what their conversations were behind the scenes like at the Combine. But I think Dahlman coming off the board, and there's really only, PFF only has 2 other centers of note at all in free agency. Ryan Kelly, the 31-year-old veteran from the Colts, and Coleman Shelton, the Bears' previous starting center, who they jettisoned to get Drew Dahlman. I don't know that either one of those guys are an upgrade over Bradbury. So is it fair to say that Drew Dahlman to the Bears likely solidifies Garrett Bradbury stays with the Vikings for the last year of his contract?
Absolutely. Yep. And this is what we thought, right? We thought, I took reading between the lines of the O'Connell rant or being upset after the Rams game. I took that to mean guard. I think they like, and this can be debated, I think they like Bradbury. I don't think that they think he's great. I don't think that they think he is a Pro Bowl player, but I think that they think he's smart. He can run the line essentially. I do think he's respected. So yes, the Dahlman talk was fun, but I never like that name was never dropped at all or close. So I'm not surprised at all.
How about this one from Pro Football Talk? This just came through from Mike Florio. This is more reckless speculation, but educated speculation. So the Seahawks wouldn't have traded quarterback Geno Smith without a clear plan for replacing him. Currently, there's chatter in some league circles that the plan could include making a run at making a trade, and the name to watch is Trevor Lawrence.
I was literally gonna guess Trevor Lawrence.
Oh God,
buy low, $55 million a year though.
The Steelers had called the Jags about Lawrence earlier, and we're told it wasn't the Steelers. It wasn't just the Steelers who called; it was the Seahawks. If it happens quickly, it'll happen quickly. The fallback, we're told, is Sam Darnold. So stay tuned on that one as well.
So the Seahawks fallback is Sam Darnold. So Darnold right now, it sounds like, obviously Raiders are off the board. They made the move for Geno. Because Pete Carroll's in his 70s. He's familiar with Geno, helped revive Geno's career. Makes sense. So right now for Darnold, probably Steelers, Seahawks, maybe Giants as kind of a dark horse. Feels like his market.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
That is interesting. But what would that trade be? My God. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, you might be buying low, but I can't imagine the Jaguars wouldn't ask for a king's ransom, right?
I mean, if you could get Geno, if you could get Trevor Lawrence, I'd give up a first-round pick for Trevor Lawrence, former number 1 overall pick. And I think as you would parse that contract, you wouldn't be I think the Jaguars would take on all of the bonuses that have been the signing bonus and stuff. So your cap hit would actually be a lot less than $55 million a year. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Real quick on the Darnold, just to piggyback off what you were saying with the Darnold stuff. The reporting to me, not to be disrespectful, because there's a lot of really good people that are doing the national insiding thing, but it was lazy. To me, it was so transparent that an agent sent you this agenda-driven information, and rather than vetting it and thinking for yourself, it's you're literally just cutting and pasting what people with agendas are telling you. Is there no layer of critical thought put in? Let's go through the different steps of the last 2 weeks. Number 1, Sam Darnold doesn't have a market. He doesn't have a market. Well, no. Teams were likely lying low until the franchise tag deadline passed because you don't want to express. If you're the Steelers, you'd be foolish to express your interest before the franchise tag deadline, because then if you're the Vikings, you're like, whoa, the Steelers really want Sam Darnold, and so do the Seahawks over here. That's crazy. Well, let's tag him, and then we can facilitate the discussion. So, of course, these teams were laying low until the franchise tag deadline. Why would he not have a market? There's 6 teams desperate for a quarterback, and he played his ass off last year. Then the other part of it was the Vikings are working on a deal to bring back Sam Darnold. Are they? Or, because that news came out after the tag deadline. Well, once the tag deadline passed, the Vikings' main objective is to bloat the value of Sam Darnold as much as possible so he signs a bigger contract and gets them a 3rd-round comp pick in 2026. So, like, that, to me, that part of it was transparent. Then that's like the Vikings are now pivoting from Sam. Oh, the talks have broken down. They're pivoting to Daniel Jones. It's like, no, I think that was the plan since December, and it's just playing out exactly the way that I guess we had talked about on this show going back several months.
We've got some potential news, a tweet or a text from our guy Doogie. The Vikings very much in on Will Fries, according to a text that we just got.
Nice.
That they are very much in. So this one makes sense. And just to be very clear here, I think we need to sort through injuries, okay? If Will Fries had torn up his knee or had something that was a real concern, I'd be like, oh, okay, you know what? I can see that. But we're talking about what here? A broken leg?
Tibia, yeah.
Tibia, which is not good, but you can recover from it. So like this one doesn't.
He's young. He's like 26, right?
My point being is this is not one where I would say, oh, be careful. So this one makes perfect sense. And yes, he fits into, and I think that this is going to come up quite a bit as we see the free agent list unfold. This fits into the pattern of you far prefer to get a guy coming out of his first contract.
This is a small sample size alert. Will Fries has been an ascending player at guard, according to Pro Football Focus. He was a 7th round pick, the 250th pick out of Penn State in 2021. And he worked his way up, became a starter in 2023. But yeah, we are now the official Twitter thread for Duke. Dewey's just going to text us what he's hearing, and then we will relay it here on the show.
Shut it down. He sabotaged it just to get his. Oh, that's very smart of Dukes.
That's great. But in the 5 games before the injury, in the first 5 games of the year for the Colts last year, Will Fries had an 86.9 PFF grade on a 0 to 100 scale, which was 4th among all guards in the league, behind only Chris Lindstrom, James Daniels that's Chris Lindstrom with the Falcons, one of the best guards in the league the last 10 years. James Daniels with the Steelers, and then Christian Mahogany with the Lions. So if you're getting that version of Will Fries as an ascending player, yeah, go pay that dude a bag for 3 or 4 years and make it happen. He'd be your starting right guard if that came to fruition.
Yeah, which is great. Which is great. I saw a comment a while back about why I think that Bradbury is good, or I'm defending him. If I could replace him, just to be clear, I would replace him. I just don't think that they're going to replace 3 guys. And it's my opinion in their mind. If you were to rank the lesser of the evils, Garrett Bradbury is last on that list, if that makes sense.
And also, some of this is just like the mathematics of the cap. If you cut Garrett Bradbury, you save $3.5 million to your cap. Well, that doesn't buy you a starting center on the market. So, like, Dahlman just signed for like $14 million a year. And so you could have made that move, but now you're, okay, how are you going to upgrade your guard situation? But you've got a couple guys. You've got Michael Juergens, who internally the Vikings like as maybe a replacement at some point. But you also have, there's some centers in the middle rounds of this year's draft that you could go use your 5th round pick on the Georgia kid, Ohio State. Like there are ways to upgrade or create a competition at training camp this year. And even if you don't, it's one more year of Bradbury. Maybe he's better because you've upgraded your guard situation. And then you move on to somebody younger and somebody new in 2026. So, we're off to the races here. The negotiating period is We got so far from a Vikings perspective, we know that Jonathan Allen, defensive tackle, is visiting the team today. And according to our guy Doogie, the Vikings are very much in on Will Fries in some discussions here. So we'll keep it moving here, and we'll get back to the news feeds here. But we have some other show-related breaking news this morning. Tickets are now available and on sale for the 2025 Purple Daily Draft Party presented by Standard Heating and Air Conditioning at scorenorth.com/draft. scorenorth.com/draft. We're back at the Fillmore in Minneapolis. It was so much fun last year. We're looking to pack that house again this year. Thursday, April 24th at 7 p.m. So last year, general admission tickets were free, but that caused just a bunch of headaches behind the scenes, quite frankly. So we said, in order to eliminate some of those headaches, we just want to charge like the minimum amount to just organize it better. So it's $10 for general admission tickets. $10. It just covers fees and the bare minimum for us. And then there's VIP tickets that include a meet and greet with the show beforehand, premium balcony seating, 2 drink vouchers, food voucher, a Purple Daily snapback trucker hat for $125. Those are limited, the VIP tickets. But you can go get your tickets right now, scorenorth.com/draft. We couldn't be more excited. Even if they trade back, it's just a night to celebrate the Purple and to celebrate the Purple Daily audience. So we are looking forward to it. Hey, if the Vikings do officially sign some players, they're going to need help moving, Declan. Who should they contact?
They should contact 2 Men and a Truck. Absolutely will make life a lot easier for everyone. They have no hidden fees or service charges there. What they quote at 2 Men and a Truck is what you pay. They simply want to make that process of conquering your move or all that clutter in your house too. They can help you get rid of that clutter as well. Moving is one of the most stressful things you can do. So whether you're maybe Jonathan Allen and, you got Purple Daily tuned up, what am I going to do to get all this stuff? 2 Men and a Truck can help you out. Go to 2menandatruck.com to book your free, no obligation appointment.
Also, North American Banking Company helping to power free agency week here on Purple Daily. North American Banking Company, a Minnesota-based bank, 6 locations across the Twin Cities, Maple Grove, Roseville, Shoreview, Hastings, Woodbury, and 50th in France. Great, friendly, knowledgeable people. They specialize in both cutting-edge online tools and personal relationships. And they're here to help you if it's the blocking and the tackling, the checking and the savings, or maybe you're looking to finance something bigger like buying a home or starting a business. North American Banking Company is here to help you. nabankco.com/Mackey to learn more. That's nabankco.com/Mackey, or visit any of their 6 Twin Cities locations. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Defensive tackle Javon Kinlaw to the Commanders for a 3-year, $45 million deal, 30 guaranteed.
Okay. So that's a massive contract. Javon Kinlaw, 27 years old, has not really lived up to the billing as he was a top half of the first round pick a few years ago. But he's in like a part-time-ish role with the Jets. He's had 30, 35 pressures a year the last couple of years. I think his projection was like more around $10 million a year. So you might be seeing some bloated contracts, but Javon Kinlaw, take him off the board. That also means that Jonathan Allen's not going back to Washington. I think what do you think? The fact that Jonathan Allen's visiting the Vikings,
right? That's
got to be the Vikings free agency signing to lose here, right?
I think it's a great fit. Yep. And also a DT BJ Hill going back to the Bengals, 3 years, $33 million, 16 guaranteed.
Okay.
So the defensive tackles, not surprisingly, are going quickly. Still one big fish left, but they are, I think it's going to be big paydays there. I am curious to see when the guards start to sign, though. What are the guards going to get? Because I think the guards are also going to make a killing today.
Do you think any of the current ones are going to get $20 million a year?
I think yeah. I wouldn't be shocked.
Well, maybe Will Fries.
Yeah, I wouldn't be absolutely shocked. If not 20, 19, 18, right? It's going to be like that market, because of what transpired with franchise tags and the like, that market is not really, really rich. And the guard position, what's fair to say, last 5 years, 4 years, I think it's just become crystal clear the importance there.
Who is the last? Is our guy Booney? When's the last time the Vikings spent meaningful money on a guard?
Boone.
It's Booney,
Boone.
right?
Yeah, there's Boone. No question about it.
Yeah. And now that we know our guy a lot better, his knee, he had surgery on his knee. Like his knee was like 90-degree angle. His knee was a wreck even then. So they even that was like a kind of a damaged goods. He came in and was not the same.
Looks okay to me. I'm going to lunch. See you guys.
Well, oftentimes they'll just they'll look at it and be like, all right, if you sign a waiver, so if that thing gets hurt, you don't get like a settlement or anything. You're just kind of on your own. So yeah, we're flying fast and furious. By the way, Twitter might be back here, boys. Yeah, Twitter might be back. Is it back?
Kind of.
I'm not back. It's not back for me.
It doesn't look like it's back for me either.
I've got an error code. Error code 520. That's what I get.
It's kind of crazy that this is. I remember back like 15 plus years ago, baseball free agency, like winter meetings, and you just be refreshing MLBTradeRumors.com.
Yes, you're right.
It's without Twitter, it's hard to figure out where to find live streams of news coming in.
One good thing is that this does preclude a jabroni who's come up with a great Adam Schefter, right? From
fake accounts.
From a fake account. Yes, there's always a great fake account, and people work really hard. Like the amount of work that's been done in recent years to dummy up an account has become really impressive.
It is, yeah. And now we celebrate it. Like the NBA has that NBA Central account. Well, NBA Central is an aggregator. Then NBA Central is like a fake aggregator. Hey Dex, can you do me a favor? Can we pop up? We have a new spreadsheet of glory here that loyal listener Shauna put this together. So you can see this, right? Yeah.
Wow.
So this is a modified version of the spreadsheet of glory here from our 7 different off-season blueprint episodes. For the YouTube audience, you can see this. For the audio audience, we'll talk you through it. But what she has done, you'll see the internal free agents on the left. Like we put Aaron Jones in for $4.8 million. Theo Jackson, we're kind of the full contract hasn't come out, so we're estimating $5 million cap hit this year. And then Ryan Wright. She's done 2 things. When you put, let's say they sign Will Fries, and you type in his cap hit, let's call it $10 million. Will Fries automatically changes colors there to green. And awesome. The audience was asking for a summarized roster. Like as you add players, what does the roster look like? Mm-hmm. Look at over here on the left side. Will Fries automatically pops in as the right guard. Now, they haven't signed him yet. So, if you're just joining us,
right?
We know that according to Doogie that they're interested in him. But we can let's take, who are we taking off here? BJ Hill is gone. I deleted Drew Dahlman, so he's gone. And then Javon Hargrave is off the board, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can take him off too.
That's great.
Thank you. Kinlaw off the board.
Oh, yeah, right. Kinlaw. Sorry.
Kinlaw. Hargrave, I think, is still there.
Yeah.
Oh, also, during the free agency special on ESPN2 just now, Dan Orlovsky suggests Jameis Winston as the Vikings UFA QB option, presumably if Daniel Jones signs elsewhere.
I love
zero chance of that one.
Why do you think there's zero chance?
Zero.
Kevin O'Connell is not going to sign a guy who throws picks like it's just part of the ordinary 1970s.
Oh, he's not? Go look at Sam Darnold's career in college and the NFL before he came to the School of Quarterback Rehabilitation.
The difference there, though, is Jameis has had a longer career.
I wouldn't say zero. That's all. I'm not saying it's likely either.
I'm saying Kevin O'Connell doesn't trust Nick Mullins, and the call there is coming from inside the house.
Wait a second. Wait. When you say he doesn't trust, I'm going to fight you on the Jameis thing right now. When you say he doesn't trust Nick Mullins, is there news, Dex?
I'm trying to figure out this is legit. The Steelers are closing in on a deal for Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
From Corbin K. Smith, Seahawks beat reporter. Per multiple reports, Steelers are closing in on a deal for Aaron Rodgers. So that would take a contender out of the Sam Darnold sweepstakes, and Justin Fields would be available. I'm trying to see if anyone else has
Either that or
too.
we're getting duped by a fake.
No, that
No,
sounds
that's a
like
real account. That's a real account.
But Judd, he trusted Nick Mullins is an interception machine, like one of the highest interception rates. He's trusted Nick Mullins enough to be the number 2 quarterback for like most of his tenure here in Minnesota, right? Like Nick Mullins has been the backup quarterback for most of.
Yeah,
KSU
I can just tell you that going into last year, there was a lot of concern about that fact. And the reality is the goal, I think, was to go, well, to start the season. Darnold, McCarthy, and Nick would either be on the roster or just gone. I'm just telling you, if Sam Darnold is back or Jameis Winston is signed here, I will be amazed.
I think it'd be the fun factor of Jameis and Winston.
Oh God, yeah, and he's hilariously funny now, but and that guy's going to make a lot of dough in television someday. I do think that.
Or is he going to be like Gronkowski, where you think he's going to be great on TV, but then he only has like
I think if he's used correctly,
year.
right? Yeah. Like for bits and stuff, he'd be pretty funny. But yes, I think if he was like a full-time guy in the booth, I don't know. That's a good point.
Okay, we have. I don't want to give away. He hasn't given us permission to give away the source here, but someone we trust texts the Purple Daily Anonymous tip line and says, "Vikings are leaders in the clubhouse for Jonathan Allen. The smoke is real."
My experience has been this: if a guy comes to a city and he leaves without signing, that either means he was lowballed by the team or the team decided at the last second they didn't want him. Jonathan Allen would not be coming here if the goal was not to, by the end of the day, lock him up.
Yeah.
Of course, I can't announce, but that's the goal.
And if you're the Vikings, I know you've got a plan in place to spin a bunch of plates, but you'd like to just get a couple things checked off your list so that you don't have 5 plates in the air on Tuesday morning. And so if you can say day 1, defensive tackle, interior pass rusher, boom, Jonathan Allen, come on down. And then Will Fries, I think would be the most expensive of the two just based on age and projection. And then boom, boom. Okay, cool. We got that. Now let's go back to the cornerback situation later on today. Which it's been all quiet so far on the Byron Murphy Jr. front, and any other as well, right? Cam Bynum's he's gone, right?
I would think so. Yes, but I mean, I would guess that by the end of the day today, there will be reports on Murphy, on Bynum for sure. The thing with Murphy is, I think once he hit the market, he's probably gone too. Because they had to have exchanged or had discussions into last night, right? Mm-hmm. So my guess is if he's going to hit the market probability, he's gone. But the good thing is you've got the cap space and there are enough quality cornerbacks out there that I think the Vikings, I would not be surprised if the Vikings end today with a guard, a defensive tackle, and a corner signed.
That'd be a nice little first day, right?
Yeah.
Yes. I think it would make people feel, and Aaron Jones, coming back, you at least know that you've got a professional running back in the room. I would love to watch Vikings football next year and feel like against the best teams in the league, they aren't having to throw the ball 5 times in the red zone because they literally don't feel like they can gain a yard handing the ball off. That on the offensive side, that was the most frustrating thing is, all right, it's 3rd and goal from the 2-yard line, and they didn't believe in themselves enough to run the ball because they couldn't get a push. And on the defensive side, credit to Brian Flores for dialing up the pressures that he does. But when you face the Matthew Staffords, you face these Jared Goff, even these veteran pocket passers, you may be able to fool some of the younger quarterbacks, the rookies, the Caleb Williams, time and time again. But Matthew Stafford sits back there having seen a decade and a half of every possible blitz combination and fake look, and they dissect it. So you have to be able to just get pressure by beating guys off the line up front. So I'd love to see them just fix those things in the first 48 hours here, or at least take a big step.
That's the thing is their problems are almost their mirror problems in the sense up front, right? You need to be able to apply pressure and still stop the run defensively. That's important. And the applying pressure thing has been a big problem. And then, yes, running the ball, protection, but it's not just protection. It's the ability to get yards. And it was clear by the end of last year that the red zone problem, I'm not going to continue to say, well, if they just get the right running back, that can help. I'm not saying it can't, but the reality is you've got to have a guard. You've got to have an interior line that can kick some butt up front, and the Vikings have sorely lacked that for quite a few seasons, I think.
Yeah.
Jimmy G back to the Rams. 1 year.
Oh, your guy.
My guy, Jimmy G. Handsome devil.
That's probably a good move for him. It's comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So with Jimmy G off the board, and Judd, you're out on Jameis Winston.
Yep. Well, I think O'Connell's out on Jameis Winston, yes.
Give us your sports dad order of backup quarterbacks. J.J. McCarthy, the number one, and then give us your
Daniel Jones. Jones for sure. I would bring him back in a heartbeat. I would give him a 1 year, $12 million contract, which is two more than Sam got supposedly to be a backup, but then he started and played great. He would be my top choice. In his best interest, I would advise he should come back. He could go get a starting job, but he ain't ready for it yet. Cleveland, good luck. So he'd be my one. I would not be, and people are going to crap on me for this. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is a backup position. J.J. McCarthy, day one of camp, is getting the reps, okay? So let's stop with this. Well, I went to training camp and McCarthy got all the reps with the first team. What happened? Well, he should. Zach Wilson would not bug me because Zach Wilson fits right into the rehabilitation school. Fits right in. And here's the fine line. Do you want a veteran backup who is Sean Hill, which means basically a coach who shouldn't play? Or do you trust O'Connell to develop a quarterback behind McCarthy who actually could play? I'll take door two. I'll never forget when the Vikings, and I did not have any premonition that it was going to be this bad, but the year that Teddy got hurt in training camp, I wrote a piece back then saying, Sean Hill's the backup here. Like, if Sean Hill has to play, you're screwed. And he won a game, and he never played again because he ended up on an injury report in a game in which he didn't get hurt. So, like, if we're talking about geriatric guy who holds a clipboard and, boy, he's good in the room, but what if my quarterback gets hurt? If your starting quarterback gets hurt, one, it's a problem. There's no question about it. But two, what is the pull in case of emergency? And I would rather have an O'Connell developed product than old man. Sean Mannion's back. He can't play. He just can't play.
I think I would put Daniel Jones number one still. He'd be the most expensive. And there's some Colts steam out there, and that might just be leverage too, that he could go compete with Anthony Richardson, whatever. So you'll probably have to pay him. Jimmy G just made, it's 1 year, $11 million. He's one of the premier backups though, right? Like he's played in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he's a good backup.
So that kind of sets the backup market. But Zach Wilson would be the other guy on my list, a guy that probably just didn't get the right situation, much like Sam Darnold with the Jets, a little immature, young, coming out of college. But now he spent a year under Sean Payton. What if he spends a year under Kevin O'Connell? And maybe he was overdrafted, but he was still a first-round talent. So I would say Daniel Jones number one, Zach Wilson number two. We're getting another text here from our guy Doogie.
Mm-hmm.
He says the Vikings have some interest from what he's hearing in former Seahawks edge rusher Draymond Jones.
Ooh, interesting. Okay.
So Draymond Jones was a third-round pick back in 2019, Ohio State. He spent the first 4 years in Denver and the last 2 years in Seattle. Was he he might have been part of the Russell Wilson trade. I think he might have been, because they traded like Noah Fant. They traded a handful of players. And he's a good rotational pass rusher. a guy that if you're looking like the Vikings in that system, you're going to have Grenard and Van Ginkel as your premier starting edges.
Yes.
And then Dallas Turner plus who for that second unit. Or sometimes you have 3 guys on the field. So there's plenty of snaps to go around for these guys. So Draymond Jones pretty consistently racks up about 45 pressures a year, which would have ranked him about 3rd on the Vikings last year if he got the 600 snaps that he played in Seattle. So not going to break the bank either. He's 28. He's not a guy that you're going to spend $15 million a year on. And then I'll read this one from Dukes here too. Giants also pushing for Will Fries from what he's hearing. And he's hearing that there is a gap potentially between what Will Fries wants financially and what the Vikings either have offered, or that there's a gap in those discussions. So we are the official Twitter feed for Doogie here, live on the Purple Daily YouTube channel.
On Fries, it's decision day. You've got cap space. We know that this top end batch is going to be expensive, right? Now, term matters. I will say that. But this is when you have to make a decision. Because if you shortchange this, if you try and get crafty, well, he wanted too much, okay? You knew what the market was going to be. You knew that when Kansas City made their move to franchise tag their guy, that the market was going to go up. This is where I would argue that you have to make that you can't simply just walk away and say too much. Now, if it gets now, I would like to know the figures, but there are certain times where I think it is very prudent and smart to say, you know what, that's a lot. That's too much. But if you come away from today not truly addressing the guards, I ain't happy. I don't think that the Wolves are going to be pleased. And I don't think that this is one that you should nickel and dime it at all, because I think if you do, you're going to regret it.
Yeah, but there's also, you can't just immediately say yes and cave. Like, it's a negotiation. You can't, Will Fry, I want $20 million here. Okay, well, dude, you were a 7th round pick. You had one partially great season, and then you got hurt. So you're also trying to fill multiple needs. So you got to be a little careful not getting, because what we don't want is for Sports Dad to come on this show in 2 years and say, man, look at that Will Fries cap hit that sits at $28 million because you caved into a market. Like, you're going to have to overpay for good players in a market like this.
Right.
But hey, Patrick McCarry, there's some dudes here on this list that make some sense. I would even, Brandon Scherf, there's been some rumblings that he might retire, or, the anonymous emails to the Purple Daily tip line have suggested that maybe Brandon Scherf, who's an upper Midwest kid, that it's Vikings or retirement. I wouldn't mind a 1 year. If they came out and say, hey, we got Kevin Zeitler for 1 year, $8 million. He's 35, but he's awesome. And he never allows any pressures. And it doesn't solve your problem for the next 5 years, but it solves your problem for 2025 so that J.J. McCarthy doesn't get sacked 50 times as a rookie.
And you can run the ball.
And you can run the ball better and run play action, et cetera.
Yeah. I would like to go, I would like one high-end guard in like a Scherf. That's what I would like. I would love to replace the guards. And Brandel is paid a salary where he can certainly afford a roster spot. He is a nice backup. But I think if you go into opening day 2025 with, let's say, Scherf and Fries and Bradbury, the opinion on Garrett is going to change, because you are now going to have really solidified 4/5 of a line that has 2 great tackles and question marks.
Yeah.
That's my only point.
Hey, before we dive back in here, and Doogie actually has an update on Patrick McCarry that we will float for you here. MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air, Judd, helping the Purple Daily faithful.
And yes, them and me. Last week, I've told you. So 2 weeks ago, they came out and they looked at the Sports Dad furnace, and they're like, this furnace is fantastic. The water heater, though, and the softener, they're not so good. And here's what they did. They didn't pressure me. They didn't say, your house is going to implode if you don't get this fixed. But they said, they're very old. We should fix them. And I said, you know what, guys? That is a great point. They came to my house. They were courteous. They were fast. Everything that you could possibly want. And most importantly, it keeps your home safe. And if that is not enough, guess what? Our friends from Fratelloni's Hardware and Garden Store have teamed up with our friends from MSP for the Big Green Egg giveaway. A grill now available for customers that book a repair, $60 off any HVAC or plumbing repair, and you will be entered for a chance to win. It is a medium-sized green egg, has a value of $1,000. It is a gorgeous thing. So the best of both worlds here. It's just this simple. Call MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air at 651-615-4292 or check out their site, callmsp.com. Call MSP.com. Sports Dad doesn't trust a lot of people to come into the old Sports Dad estate, but when it comes to MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air, he does. Call MSP.com and find out what good service is.
Hey, later this week on Thursday, once the dust settles a little bit and the new league year turns the corner on Wednesday, Thursday at Black Stack Brewing in St. Paul, it's our next Purple Daily Unplugged event. So Thursday, March 13th, it's free to get in. We do ask that you register for one of the free tickets so we can have a head count and we can make sure that everyone in attendance gets one of these custom Purple Daily Black Stack pint glasses. So register at scorenorth.com/PD Unplugged for a free agency edition of Purple Daily Unplugged. We'd love to meet as many of you as possible, hang out, talk some free agency. scorenorth.com/PD Unplugged. And then, don't forget, as of a couple hours ago, scorenorth.com/draft, the Purple Daily Draft Party tickets. By the way, Standard Heating and Air Conditioning, the title sponsor, helping to bring you the draft party. Those tickets are now available. $10 for general admission, $125 for VIP, which includes 2 drink tickets, a Purple Daily trucker hat, food voucher, and some other fun things, including a meet and greet with us. You can get those tickets at scorenorth.com/draft for the first night of the draft, 7 p.m. on April 24th. A couple more updates here. Doogie on Patrick McCarry, who is one of the premier free agent offensive linemen. Doogie says, no Vikings on McCarry so far. He doesn't appear to be plan B if Will Fries is potentially plan A. So that's something to keep an eye on. McCarry, by the way, the ultimate Swiss Army knife of offensive linemen here on this. He's literally played 900 snaps at every single offensive line position and could be a potential great fit from that standpoint. Maybe doesn't have quite the upside of like a Will Fries. And then this one, too. I'll throw the breaking news on this. This is a big one. The New York Giants are set to sign Saints defensive back Paulson Adebo, who was a name kind of floating around like Vikings Twitter of, hey, if Byron Murphy Jr. does go away and sign somewhere else, he could be a potential good fit. There's a bunch of cornerback options. If you don't land a deal or if you feel uncomfortable with the price tag discussion on Byron Murphy Jr., there's a bunch of guys. DJ Reed, Charvarius Ward, Carlton Davis, Asante Samuel Jr., but Paulson Adebo was on that list. You can now cross him off that list.
Okay. Yeah, and it looks like Jacksonville's agreed to terms on a 3-year contract with cornerback Jordan Lewis, who had 10 picks in 8 years with the Cowboys. So the cornerbacks are starting to move now, too. The guards still have not moved. Defensive tackles, corner starting to go.
Disrespect to the guard market.
I wonder
making those guys wait an hour to
I
get
wonder.
their bag.
I wonder if it's so high though that we're dealing with that. Because I got to think that the remaining upper echelon guards got phone calls immediately. I wonder if this is indicative, as Duke said about Fries and the Vikings. I wonder if what we're seeing here is that those price tags are so high.
Yeah, it could be. Okay, the comments. I've not seen this on my feed here, but apparently Milton Williams to the Panthers. Premier interior, or is that a fake account? Are you guys getting duped? I do not see that. My Twitter is down.
I think Schefter said it on ESPN, and I'm seeing some others saying the same thing when you just search his name in latest on Blue Sky. Other NFL reporters kind of saying a similar thing. Hi, Vinny. Seaford has it now too. Milton Williams working to finalize a deal with the Panthers. Per Adam Schefter, that's a position of need for the Vikings, who are hosting Jonathan Allen on a visit.
Yeah, and that's one of those deals when you're talking about a $20 million a year free agent.
Yes.
It doesn't, noon Eastern time on Monday doesn't hit, and they're like, all right, who should we call? That is a deal that likely the framework is agreed upon at the combine.
So
and
his contract and his predicament to me is very intriguing because he played on a team that was very deep at that position and like really, really good. And that's one where I could see some concern of what happens when he goes from being part of the depth chart infrastructure where he excelled to being the guy.
Yeah, and if you're, I'm going to pop the spreadsheet of glory up on the screen here so you guys can see what we're dealing with here. The interior defensive lineman market has been booming here in the early minutes or the first hour of free agency. So Milton Williams to Carolina, according to reports. BJ Hill back to Cincinnati, right? And then Javon Kinlaw to the Commanders, which leaves, according to at least our digging here, Levi Onwuzurike on the board, Javon Hargrave, and then Jonathan Allen visiting the Vikings. So if you're the Vikings and you were definitely looking to land one of these dudes, right? Like this is the list right here of guys that you need to grab one of them.
Yep.
You probably did your due diligence on Milton Williams with his representation at the combine without tampering, of course. Maybe you didn't talk about, you can't negotiate a contract, but you could, as we're just talking over cocktails here.
Yep.
It'd be like 20, 21 million a year. Okay. Sounds good. Or maybe, maybe he decided that he wants to go play for. It's not just up to the Vikings to pick who. It's not like college recruiting, or it's not like the NFL draft where you literally just like pluck a kid out. So it makes sense that the Vikings would have concluded potentially a week or two ago. Yeah, Milton Williams, too rich for our blood. Or to your point, we feel like he's a rotation guy, not an every snap guy. It's not worth $20 million. Let's get a Jonathan Allen, who we know that guy can play at a high volume.
4 years, 82. Oh, no, that's Dan Moore. Left tackle Dan Moore, though.
That's big, too.
Yeah, 4 years, $82 million to the Titans, 50 guaranteed.
Dan Moore?
Big. Yeah, Dan Moore. Dan Moore, left tackle.
Not to be confused with our own Dane Moore, who we like so much.
Not Dan Moore.
Because if he got that, congratulations to Dane Moore. You've done yourself proud.
Wow, dudes. Yeah, Dan Moore, 4 years, $82 million, $50 million guaranteed. And Diana Rossini also now has Milton Williams to the Panthers. So we've got on our spreadsheet of glory here, we did not include offensive tackles because this is mostly just it's a document of guys that the Vikings could be. I can take Myles Garrett off this list, can I? $40 million a year. I love that one, by the way.
Seriously.
Yeah, I'm just kind of sick of playing in Cleveland because it's an incompetent organization that never wins. Yeah, listen, Myles, how about $40 million a year? Okay.
I'm back.
Love Cleveland.
Your competence. Hello, Cleveland. Your competence is very high now. Yeah, that was awesome. That was the biggest turnaround in the history of contracts.
So, yeah, as of right now, no guards have come off the board in the first hour. Drew Dahlman was the premier interior offensive lineman that has signed or agreed upon a deal so far to the Bears. What do you think of the Bears?
I was just going to say that.
Literally swapping out 60% of their offensive line and just gutting it for a new head coach.
It concerns me greatly because I think it's very, very smart. And Ben Johnson, we could talk about his, razzle dazzle, right? Play color extraordinaire. But at the end of the day, one of the things Detroit had for them the last 2 years is their offensive line could kick ass. And so it does, from a Vikings standpoint, it definitely concerns me because I do think this is how you build a team that's going to be really good. And I do think that this is how you build a team that's going to be really good late in the season into the playoffs. So I think of the moves I've seen thus far, both on trades before today and then to today, I think the Bears might be the most improved team because that offensive line was, sort of a joke. And now they've really improved. And if you look, where have they improved? The interior, center, guards, those positions.
Yeah, they've upgraded their offensive line. They've definitely upgraded, at least in terms of schematic and creativity with head coach, their offensive side of the ball. We'll find out if Ben Johnson is an all-encompassing head coach or not. But yeah, at some point, you'd think after decades and decades of embarrassing offensive futility that the Bears would figure it out to some extent. It is wild, though, that franchise has never had a 4,000-yard passer.
It is nuts.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, if you can protect Caleb adequately, how good does he potentially still become? Because it's really hard to, like, as good as Jaden Daniels was in Washington, I think it's really difficult to pass judgment on any quarterback after one season as a rookie.
Yes, Bears offensive line, not ideal for a rookie quarterback. Also, though, the way Caleb plays and just like the lack of, for the Bears front office to come out and essentially say, yeah, we skipped some steps in the development process. Why? That's ridiculous. It's like they thought because they bring in Caleb Williams and they brought in some shiny bells and whistles for skill position players. They thought, oh, we've arrived offensively. It's like, no, you got to teach your quarterback who made a living off scrambling at USC how to stand in the pocket and throw on schedule. So some of it's on Caleb Williams, but yeah, the Bears are looking at that division and they're looking up, and the Lions are a fully formed Super Bowl contender product. The Vikings won 14 games. The Packers, double digits, 11 wins, 12 wins, whatever it was.
Yep.
And they got to do something. And they've been super aggressive. The 2 trades for the guards and then Drew Dahlman, $14 million a year. So can the Vikings counter with a Jonathan Allen and or a Will Fries to throw a jolt in their trenches? We shall see.
Starting to see more moves. If this is correct, it was just posted on our comment section that Carlton Davis has signed elsewhere as well. That he's gone. I think it said to the Patriots.
Yep.
Carlton Davis to the New England Patriots.
Cornerback from Detroit, so he can also be subtracted from the spreadsheet of glory.
Okay.
20 million AAV. Wow.
That's interesting. Where'd you see the 20 million?
Matt Miller had that. And I think that came from Schefter.
So Carlton Davis, 20 million AAV. And let's see if we get official Schefter confirmation on that. PFF had projected 14 million AAV. And I'm wondering now, because he's not DJ. If you're DJ Reed, if you're Byron Murphy, you're 2 years younger than Carlton Davis.
Yeah, that's why
3 years, $60 million deal.
Wow. And by the way, J.C. Horn also agreed before free agency to the $25 million a year. So there's a window now between Carlton Davis and the top of the cornerback market, where if I'm DJ Reed, if I'm Byron Murphy Jr., and I see that Carlton Davis got $20 million, I think I might ask for $20 million a year.
Yeah.
So if you're the Vikings, do you want to pay $20 million a year and have Byron Murphy Jr. be one of your 3 to 5 highest paid players on the team? I think he'd be your second or third highest paid player.
I'd prefer not to, but you might be stuck there. But this again gets back to where is your big spend going to be?
What's your guess? What position do you think they spend the most average annual value on? I think it's guard. I think they're going to spend $15 million a year on a Will Fries. I think they're going to get Jonathan Allen for a little bit less than that, or maybe they do. Hell, maybe they do drop $19 million a year on DJ Reed.
Well, don't forget though, if you bulk up, if you improve your interior pass rush, okay, and you know that you've got Grenard outside, Van Ginkel outside, and Dallas Turner, who I think is going to be much improved and play way more. And you can put sufficient pressure on the quarterback. I'm not saying that you don't want good cornerbacks at that point in time, but I do think that there's less of a concern about can a guy like Blackman step in and play well? Because if you are continually pressuring opposing quarterbacks, so that's got to factor in, right? So yes, I'm with you guys. I would prefer that the big spend is at guard, because I don't see how you get away with trying to, and we've seen this for 8 years now, with trying to shortchange the interior line in the name of Kirk Cousins, a quarterback, or pick your position at which they have made a splash and taken away from the possibility of paying a guard.
Yeah. So the good news is, because we've done 7 Blueprint episodes, and our math may not be perfect because we are not certified NFL capologists. But damn it, our math is close enough. And essentially every single iteration, we were able to spend $15-17 million a year on a cornerback. We were able to spend another huge chunk of that much or maybe more on either an interior or an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman. Like I think there's 3 big chunks to be spent, I guess is what I'm saying. And they haven't done anything except for the conversations yet. And I know people are already panicking. I see the comment section like, what's Kwesi doing? We're an hour and 10 minutes into this thing. The offensive line market has not moved at all. And I do think when, like on the defensive side, okay, there's a Milton Williams deal matriculating behind the scenes, and then it starts to slot in, right? And the cornerbacks, all right, J.C. Horn and then Carlton Davis. Now you're going to start seeing probably a run on cornerback deals because now it's like agents know what the value is and teams do. Mm-hmm. So whoever is the first offensive lineman to sign is going to help set a benchmark, and maybe these benchmarks are already determined just off the record behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like, and the Vikings, they still have a lot of other levers to pull. Like for cap space purposes, they could restructure Brian O'Neill's contract and save $8.5 million to this year's cap. They can cut Ed Ingram. They can restructure or extend Josh Oliver, Josh Metellus, and free up some extra cap space too. So there's a bunch of ways for them to make more room if, for instance, the price for some of these cornerbacks was a little higher than they originally thought. Oh, okay, cool. Sorry, CJ Ham, you're no longer on the team at $2.5 million.
Let's just panic. It's way more fun. It's way more fun. What are the Vikings doing? What's going on? Is anyone in? Is Crazy still sick?
Can we confirm? Is he still sick? Do we know?
Hey guys, it's Quace. I'm not feeling well. I'm gonna have to bag out. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye.
Can we confirm? Is it KOC who's driving these free agent negotiations today?
Exactly. Who's driving the
drama? Yeah, the Carlton Davis, $34.5 million. I just want to see how this compares to the projected by. So Carlton Davis, 3 years, $60 million, 34.5 guaranteed. Byron Murphy was projected also at like 34 million guaranteed. So it's all kind of coming in similar to what was projected. But yeah, that's probably an overpay, but that's what happens when the cap goes up $25 million and a bunch of teams have, and by the way, the floor, you have to spend a certain amount of money. So sometimes teams like the Patriots, the Raiders, when you have like $100 million in cap space, sometimes that can be bad news because you have to spend up to like 90% of the cap. Yep. And there might not be enough good players or great players who want to play for you.
Did anyone really think that at the end of today, you're going to start to look at the contracts and say, bargain, another bargain?
Yeah.
Like this is the day, the next 2 days, every contract you see is going to be a wow, I think, especially today.
Yep. It is pretty wild, the money that gets. I mean, like the Josh Allen contract, they gave him like 2 extra years and kind of ripped up the deal.
Yeah.
Just $330 million. I think is what the half decade total was.
I would not mind seeing the Vikings have one wow contract today. I don't think you need 3 of them, but I would like to see one. I would like to see one wow contract. I would like it to be at guard, and I would like to know that when I go to sleep tonight, this team can score a damn red zone touchdown on the ground. That's what I'd like.
Yeah, that would be nice. If just back to the Darnold thing for a second, because that's another thing it's kind of out of the purview of the Vikings at this point, because what's funny is in the first hour, there's been zero discussion at all about, or even in the lead up the last 24 hours, about Darnold and Vikings. It's almost as if the entire time the Vikings were posturing and nobody on the national level was doing the requisite amount of critical thinking on this. But if the reports of Aaron Rodgers to the Steelers are true, what does that mean for Sam then? Seahawks would still be potentially an option, but now you're without Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf.
But it's a mess, isn't it?
Yes, but Sam needs to wherever Sam goes at this point, Sam also probably just simply needs to cash in. So I think Seattle makes a ton of sense. Now, if they trade for Lawrence, I would actually have a bigger problem there on behalf of Trevor. To Declan's point, I do not want Trevor Lawrence to go to another place where the line's a mess. I actually would prefer to see Sam break the bank, get the contract he deserves, and fail miserably than to see Trevor go there and fail. Because I actually think that there's hope left there. For Sam, I have no idea. But, I mean, Seattle still makes a lot of sense. And I don't think it was a mistake that... So here's my theory on Friday, okay? Schefter, oddly, like in the afternoon, backed off. Like he had been like, Vikings are still negotiating. Vikings are still in. And then oddly, before the Geno Smith trade was announced, like 6 hours, he backed off completely. Yeah, it looks like the Vikings might be out now. And I'm like, he knows something. Somebody called him and said, stand down on Darnold back to Minnesota. Then the trade comes down. And all those guys immediately say Darnold to Seattle, which again, I think was not a conclusion. I think they were told that. And if they're told something, they're going to report it. They read the teleprompter like Burgundy, right? So I think that Schefter was told earlier in the day, Geno's being traded, can't report that yet. But what I can tell you is Darnold to Seattle now is way more of a go. And so I think the only thing that we didn't know in recklessly speculating was we didn't know what the Raiders' real interest in Darnold was. And clearly it was not high, which is why everyone drew the conclusion he was going to come back here. I think once the Raiders got Geno and it cleared out Seattle, who, by the way, saw Sam put on a hell of a performance there, I think that's where the national people got the go-ahead to say, okay, the logical conclusion now is Darnold to the Seahawks.
Yeah, they still have Jackson Smith and Jigba, and they still have some really interesting pieces on defense. And they have a running game, too, can run the ball. But it kind of feels like, to me, the Seahawks are planning they're looking at what the Rams just added Devontae Adams. So it's like Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, Matthew Stafford is back. That defense is young, and that defense allowed single-digit points in like 4 of their last 6 games to end the year, that Rams defense. The Rams are ready to pop again. The 49ers are kind of teetering, and it all depends on, I think if they wind up giving $55 million a year to Brock Purdy, it's going to further impact the rest of their roster. But the Seahawks might be looking at the Rams and saying, okay, let's, Geno, we were going into one more year left with Geno anyways. Hell, if we could get a draft pick for Geno and just take a deep breath. And DK Metcalf, he's not worth $30 million a year. He's kind of a pain in the ass. He's a deep threat, but he's not integral to what we're doing. And our offense is kind of average anyways. It feels like a transition year for Seattle. So would they bring in Sam Darnold knowing that they're not, like, Sam feels like a potential piece for the Steelers to go from 10 wins to, we have an offense that can hit home runs now and maybe make some noise. I don't know that he is that in Seattle unless they add a couple pieces back in, but maybe if it's a 3 or 4 year contract, it is good infrastructure there. And I think, like, having lived there for a couple years, I actually think the fans would love Sam Darnold too there. And it's kind of, you're not like in a New York spotlight market. But I do wonder about where they're at now compared to maybe a week ago, offensive personnel-wise.
I also think that Darnold in Seattle, Darnold brings them a professional. Like he had a year here. He played great. He played for a really good offensive play caller, quarterback coach. And I think in Seattle, if you are doing what they're talking about, Phil, which is sort of like, okay, we're not going to be perfect. We don't love Geno. We're going to take the pick for him, but we need a quarterback that sort of just gets it and can play. I think Darnold now fits that. A year ago, I would have probably said no, but he's now had back-to-back years of experiences with really good, solid teams, right? San Fran, he didn't play, but he got a year there. It clearly helped him a lot. He got the year here in which up until the last 2 games, for the most part, he played really well. So I think if I'm Seattle, I think to myself, I could do a lot worse than having Darnold sort of hold down the fort. And if we surprise, awesome. And if we don't, that's fine too.
Yeah. There's also a ton. They could pretty easily. There's still a ton of receivers out there where you could have Jackson Smith and Jigba, and then I don't know, go sign Stephon Diggs or something. There's dudes out there you could grab. Cooper Kupp. But also, if you're the Titans and you're sitting on the number 1 pick and you don't for sure know about Cam Ward, do they still make some sense? They've been kind of lurking in the weeds. There's been some fringe reporting on them for the last month. I don't know that the Giants, I think, makes sense on paper, but I just don't know that Sam wants to go back to that stadium, to that market, and just deal with all that again. But Tennessee, if they decided, we want Penn State edge rusher with the first pick, maybe even get cute, trade back to number 2 or 3, still get our guy. Let's move into the Sam Darnold 3-year window here, and he can and Will Levis can still stick around, whatever. Mm-hmm. But if they decide that they aren't in on Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, I could still see the Titans. Be an interesting couple days for Sam Darnold.
Let's talk about Pittsburgh, because if they go with Rodgers over Darnold, I don't get that. And here's why. First of all, Tomlin for the last 5 years has had these teetering locker rooms. I mean, Mike is a really, in my opinion, really good coach, and he's a strong personality. And I know he thinks that he can control things. And I would say a few times in the last X amount of years, there have been times where it's Mike, you're not doing a great job with that. Do you want Aaron Rodgers, who might come in and play okay, might play well, but his personality, he ain't changing. He clearly is not changing. He might tell you he's going to change, but then he gets the job and he goes back to being himself. And I don't mean the guy 10 years ago in Green Bay. I mean the guy now. Or Darnold, who is going to execute the plan. And Vinny, I would
Finn.
argue.
Oh, this is Finn.
This is Vinny's brother. We got both dogs this week.
Sorry, Finn. I feel bad now. I was wrong about that.
They look alike. They're brothers from another mother. But
they do. But Darnold, if you have him on that team with the weapons that they're about to have, which, by the way, could be really, really good, and he just proved that with Jefferson and Addison, he was lights out because he's got a big arm. I think at this point in time in their careers, if I'm Pittsburgh, I'm going with Sam.
I agree. I think Rodgers has a little left in the tank, but I don't know. There's only been one other quarterback in NFL history older than Rodgers that performs at a high enough level to win a Super Bowl. It's Tom Brady. And Rodgers was pretty brutal in the first half of last year. You could say, he was rusty and still coming off the injury, whatever. But he's also been, even when he was fully healthy in Green Bay, he's been such a front-running quarterback. And by that, I mean, when things are going great in a game or in a season, he's loving life. Everything's great. He's dapping up teammates. But when things aren't going as well, and in Pittsburgh, they've had stretches where, receivers like George Pickens, and by the way, DK Metcalf has been this way. They can get cantankerous. He is a guy that kind of pours gas on that fire. And Sam Darnold's going to be more of I think you can yell at Sam Darnold, receivers or coaches, and he just kind of nods and, yep, okay, coach, whatever. Yep, okay, yep, DK, yep, you got it. So I'm with you. I think he makes a lot of sense, and he could also wind up just being a long-term solution for you that goes beyond 2025.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not a top 5 quarterback, but he's certainly going to be better than the parade of guys this Justin Fields stuff. You're telling me, unless they trade George Pickens, but even with DK Metcalf, you're going to bring in DK Metcalf and then run Justin Fields back out there, who's shown zero ability to get the ball to receivers at a high frequency. Play callers don't trust it. With Darnold, you're going to want to run play action. You're not going to want to air him out to dry and throw the ball 50 times every game, but he'll get the ball to DK Metcalf and Pickens. That will not be a problem.
I think Darnold's year here showed him to be a perfect fit now there.
Yeah. Dude, really that's good. What Ben Roethlisberger was. It was checkdowns and bombs basically for 12 years.
What happens internally with Pittsburgh the first time that they don't have a good game offensively and Aaron either calls out or insinuates something about DK or Pickens?
Well, Pickens.
Because they're not going to sit there and take it.
Yeah.
Right? They're not going to sit there and be like, oh, sorry.
Yeah. I wonder, I don't know. There's been some speculation that maybe they would trade Pickens between now and the draft for something, just because they're kind of fed up with his antics. And to have both, it's so combustible to have both those guys, I feel like.
Yeah.
Here's another note here. This is from our guy Vikings fan page, who's citing Alec Lewis, but Alec had this last week too, that Javon Hargrave is a name to watch for the Vikings. Yeah, Alec did a great job in his post-combine recap on The Athletic of just kind of listing out some of the things that he's heard. And Javon Hargrave is one of those guys, interior defensive pass rusher. It really feels like, based on the initial reports here, that with Jonathan Allen in the building, with Alec hearing throughout the last week and a half that Javon Hargrave is on the Vikings radar, that they are going to sign a 30 or 32-year-old interior pass rusher that still has some gas in the tank. I think they will then also draft an interior defensive lineman.
Yes.
And then they're going to spend, in terms of left guard or right guard, like Will Fries, if that comes to fruition, that they'll just spend for a guy who's in his prime at guard. That appears to be their blueprint here in the first, now that information's coming out, the first hour and a half of free agency.
Yep. I would say right now, the mock drafts that we've done that have included a defensive tackle, a running back, high up for the Vikings are pretty accurate. Because Jones coming back is fine, but he's clearly not the only guy. And, halfway through 2025, he might not be the guy. So, and if that's how you're going to play it, I'm fine with that.
Oh, we've got drama.
No Fries drama?
Diana Rossini coming in here from The Athletic and saying, other teams around the league are showing strong interest in landing Milton Williams right now. It's close to a deal with Carolina, but it's not a done deal.
It's not done day. Wednesday's done day. Oh, I love it.
I can't tell if she's just a little behind because Twitter's been off, or
Twitter's back now.
Yeah, Twitter is back as of like 10 minutes ago.
Seems like it's back. Yeah.
Okay,
although when you go to twitter.com, it doesn't redirect you anymore. You got to go to x.com, and then you should be good to go.
Matt Miller kind of doubling down on what Diana said too. It sounds like Milton Williams of Carolina isn't done yet. So what if there was like a bunch of deals done when Twitter was just down and people are now like getting them out there too, which is kind of very strange.
Oh wait, they didn't know. Wait a second. We can go back to the negotiating table. A reminder too, by the way, thanks to the over 5,000 people hanging out with us live right now during the opening minutes and hours of free agency frenzy bonanza week in the NFL.
My favorite day of the year.
It's a great week. It's where I think a lot of fans maybe kind of duck out after the season, and then maybe you hear that your favorite team signed a player or two, but it has become just a destination content week in the NFL. The amount of excitement that you feel for your franchise signing a left guard you never heard of until like 3 weeks ago for an exorbitant amount of money is it's pretty fun. So a reminder too that a couple hours ago we opened up the window for the 2025 Purple Daily Draft Party presented by Standard Heating and Air Conditioning. Tickets are on sale right now officially as of today at scorenorth.com/draft. scorenorth.com/draft. We're back at the Fillmore in Minneapolis Thursday night, April 24th, 7 p.m. General admission tickets are $10 this year. VIP tickets, which include a meet and greet with the show, premium balcony seating, a couple of drink vouchers, food voucher, Purple Daily snapback hat, $125. Scorenorth.com/draft.
Judd, do you have to use the restroom?
Guys, I got to go run a errand, and I'll be right back because I love this. But it's just right down the hallway. I'll be right back.
Okay. See you, Judd.
I like him.
I put him off.
He texted the group thread.
Hey, I gotta go.
Pee. We can keep going. I just need to excuse myself for a couple of minutes. He's just antsy. Oh my gosh. Well, while we wait for Judd to come back and for more news to come in here, if you didn't hear us earlier this this show here, this live stream, also announced that on Thursday this week, we are going to be at Blackstack in St. Paul for, I think, what's going to be our 4th Purple Daily Unplugged event. This will be kind of a free agency recap. I mean, obviously, there will still be a second wave, but by the time Thursday rolls around, the Vikings will have added almost certainly a small handful of players. So we want to discuss it in Purple Daily Unplugged fashion from 5 to 7 p.m. at Blackstack in St. Paul. It's free to attend, but we do ask that you register for a free ticket or multiple at scorenorth.com/PD Unplugged, scorenorth.com/PD Unplugged. All attendees are going to receive a free Purple Daily Blackstack pint glass as well. So come out, hang out, talk some free agency, and yeah. Okay, Russ says biggest news of the day is going to happen while Judd is on the toilet. Write that down, Dex. Guaranteed they sign Will Fries.
This whole Milton Williams thing is interesting, though. The fact.
So was it just like, did people just jump the gun on the reporting, or
maybe? By the way, Morgan Moses, veteran offensive tackle, going to the Patriots, 3 years, $24 million.
Okay.
Worth up to $28.5 million, but a multi-year, age 34, so another tackle. That bodes well, I think, for Cam Robinson's camp. Like, I think people were trying to figure out, like, what kind of deal is he going to get? I mean, if these guys are going off, I think he's going to get – don't think he's going to get, like, a break-the-bank type of deal, but I do think he'll get a pretty decent contract.
It's kind of funny, like genetically, if you are born as a 6'7", 300-some-pound monster who can play football, you're like 29 or 30 years old, you're going to make $20 million a year. So he's going to get paid. Welcome back, Judd.
Thank you.
Feeling good?
I feel much better.
Good time.
Did you see what happened while you were away?
Yeah.
I see that.
Did you see what the Vikings did?
I see that in my Twitter feed. I'm glad it's back because I wouldn't have this breaking news. Ian Rappaport reporting that Cousins and the Vikings have agreed to terms on a 3-year contract.
$120 million. That's right.
March of 2018. God, I'm glad Twitter's back.
No, Brett Favre is back as the Vikings quarterback. He's been working out the last 2 months.
Who wouldn't want him?
So, well, we're an hour and a half in here, and I think we devoted ourselves and said we're going to do an hour and a half. We got the Aaron Jones thing for sure that actually happened, and so I think let's give some final thoughts maybe before we wrap up this live stream, and then what we'll do is we will be on call the rest of today and tomorrow whenever, and the minute something substantive happens, we will jump back in live on the Purple Daily YouTube channel. But Judd, go ahead and give us a couple final thoughts here for just the first hour and a half.
Well, first of all, don't panic. Don't panic. In fact, there are positions being signed right now that the Vikings are not interested in, okay? So, like, it's not the totality of, oh, my God, all the free agents are disappearing. If it's an offensive tackle, guess what? They're not in the market. Where they are in the market is a guard. And as far as I have seen, unless I had a guy signed on my potty break I don't know about, the guard market alive and well and expensive. Also had it pointed out to me from a DM here, and it's a good point. On the defensive tackle front, in the Thor Nystrom approved school of signing guys, keep in mind, Hargrave or Allen have been released. So if you're playing the comp game at home, you do not owe a compensatory pick. That is not a strike against you. So there is a good chance what the Vikings are also trying to do here is play a game of, we'll go get a released defensive tackle. We won't pay him as much as a guy who's on the open market, for instance, but it also allows us then, as we lose guys, to get a compensatory pick in 2026. Good point there. But I am not panicked yet. I really want to see what like Fry signs for and where clearly. But there's a lot of money being thrown around right now, and I think this is how the entire day, if not the next entire 2 days, are going to go.
Yeah, I love that point about playing the comp pick game, because if you can check a couple of these boxes by signing players who were cut, and Jonathan Allen checks that box, and then you need like Sam Darnold to sign a relatively big contract, because you're still going to sign at least 2 or 3 guys who are just pure unrestricted free agents. and you're going to need something on the other end to balance out. But you also might, there's some guys that you're going to lose. Byron Murphy, Cam Bynum is going to sign a big contract somewhere. Byron Murphy Jr. and Sam Darnold. So if you can come away with an improved roster and also an extra 3rd-round pick next year by playing the game the right way, then that would be another win for the Vikes.
DJ Reed of the Lions.
So the Lions replace Carlton Davis then with DJ Reed. Okay.
3 years, 48, 32 guaranteed.
3 years, 48.
348. So
That's
what's the math on that?
16.
$16 million a year.
Yeah, so that's not ridiculous.
So we've got kind of a $16 to $20 million range there. Byron Murphy Jr. is going to fall. I guess I'd be surprised if he went over 20, but
18,
he might
you think?
get up to 20, somewhere in there.
I think he's going to get more than 16.
Yeah. And then you have to decide, was he a product of a great system, or is he a guy that, and even if he is, like, is he worth paying that much money to, or can you replicate it with players that aren't quite as expensive? But you also need bodies. You literally have all 3 of your starting cornerbacks are unrestricted free agents. Blackman's going to come in. So you might have to overpay a little bit just to, like, make sure that you have decent players in that room going into the draft, so you're not desperate.
Absolutely.
So, all right, we're gonna step away, and we will be on alert for any actual breaking Vikings news. But happy free agency season, everybody. The time is here for reckless speculation to turn to reality. I think before the end of the day, we'll for sure have another bonus episode of Purple Daily, and then Purple Daily NFL takes after day 1 here. For the sports dad Judd, who now feels better about his bladder. For producer Dex, I am Phil. Click that like button and the subscribe button on the Purple Daily YouTube channel, and we'll see you guys almost certainly later today. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.